like we discussed a few times, the Indian of Bechira here, so Bechlal, Bechira is a big yisoid in the Rebbe's Torah. There's it's an Indian Chassidus Bechlal, but before the Rebbe, the whole sugi of Bechira definitely wasn't a dominant factor. And even where Bechira was brought, it wasn't necessarily brought in these oisias and in this context. Bechira is usually associated with das. It's not necessarily brought as the nekudah of etzem and nefesh, and perhaps the overriding factor higher than all other klichas of nefesh, and that's by the adam lamata al derech zeh b'negeya l'lamayla. So this is an Indian gebracht in the Rebbe's Maamer, in the Rebbe's Sichos, right? There's a klibet this month also in the Sichos, all about Bechira. That's it's mamish worth to look into that klibet. A lot of the Sichos of the Sugi of Bechira are there. So Bezek Gufa, in this Maamer, there's a few chidushim in this Sugya that aren't explicit or even aren't explicit in other places. Maybe even more, they're brought out here differently and more mechudish than in other places. Let's say, even closely, there's one Indian Ikri in the Pnim, and then there's the Indian. But in the second one's also in the Pnim, but Barichas in the Ha'ara. One Ikuda is the Yachas between Goyrol and Bechira. Right, the second Keta and Sifches, that the two inyanim that exist in Bechira. The Bechira is really this chibur of Bechira and Goyrol. And then there's the next Nikuda, where when he speaks about the kesher atzmi of the etzem and neshama of a yid to the Eibush there, especially b'strik tzechayis and Mesiras Nefesh, so he says, where does Mesiras Nefesh come from? This is on the third line of Siftes, the end of the third line. Dinina Mesiras Nefesh u'me etzem and neshama, hainu mitzad ha'bchira, the etzem and neshama ba'atzos. Where does Mesiras Nefesh come from? The bchira of etzem and neshama in atzos. Right? We directly associate Mesiras Nefesh with the level of bchira, the hainu, to the exclusion of all others, right? And not the level of ratzin, and not the level of ben, as we'll discuss, which is l'chayr very mechudash, because derech klal the voida of Mesiras Nefesh is beferish associated with those levels. Now, obviously, it connects to the whole understanding of what bchira is and how it connects with the other dargas here, and it shaychas to goyim. Okay, so what's happening here? So in Sifches, he explains, he brings a few dargas here. Right, in the earlier Sifim, Matgeret, Vegin Ishtalshalos, which is connected Midlis and Seichel. Then there's Lamaila Mishtalshalos. You have the concept of Ratzin, right? That's in Sif Beis and Gimel. And Sif Gimel goes into that there's Ratzin Shalamaila Michachma. And then there's Goyrol that's higher than Ratzin. So Hemshech was there, so after we have Ratzin, and Hechef from them Hatmin Goyrol, so he says that just like the beginning of Sifches, just like Goyrol is higher than Seichel and higher than Ratzin, Al Derech Zeh B'Negel L'Bchira, that it's higher than Seichel and higher than Ratzin. Right. So the first thing is we place Bchira up there together with Goyrol. Goyrol and Bchira are higher than everything else. Higher than Ratzin. Higher than Seichel and Midlis. Mechtech, obviously. Right, so first of all, that itself is there's a klarkite here, which isn't as a pashut, right? Because Bekama Mekoimis, especially, he brings here from Tafshin Gimel. Tafshin Gimel is brought over here in the Maamer. That's probably just a small chelik. So in Tafshin Gimel, the way he brings the sugya there, which a lot of times the Rebbe has been saying Tafshin Gimel when we get to the sugya of Bechira. So there, it's not as a klar that Bechira is higher than Ratzin. In fact, there's a big mashmos that Bechira and Ratzin are mamish haynuha. What's the sugya of Tafshin Gimel? What's the hemshech of Tafshin Gimel about? Ratzin l'mlucha, right? The three dargas in Ratzin Agolui, Ratzin Hamuchot, Anelum, Ratzin Hamuchot Batzmusik. Dargas of Ratzin l'mlucha. Everything starts in Ratzin l'mlucha. And there, he associates the Ratzin l'mlucha with the Bechira in l'mlucha. Right? And Bekama Mekoimis, including also in the Rebbe's Sichos in a few places, it seems pretty much that they're the same thing. Because what's the nekuda of bechira? The nekuda is that I'm the one choosing. What's ratzin? Right? Both your. What's the nekuda of ratzin? What differentiates the mehusay ratzin from seichel and midis? That seichel and midis is not me myself. It's the zulas pulling me towards it. Right? Midis. There's something about the zulas that's attractive to me.
In Seichel, maybe it's not the Zulas per se, but Kloli Seichel, intellect. The objective truth is telling me that you should be Nimshechted. Mashenkin Ratzin is was ich will. What Bchira? Was ich will. Here I call it what I want, here I call it what I choose. But in Etzem and Yonim, a lot of times, the Ratzin and Bchira are almost synonymous. They're two ifanit to move out to the same point, that it's me. I'm the Roitza, I'm the Boicher. But in this Maamer, it's very, very clear that it's higher Gami Ratzin. Right, and from this, the Rebbe brings the Lashon Tafshin Gimel, the Inyan HaBchiru Sheyochel Lirtzis V'loy Lirtzis. Right, the Rebbe brings Tafshin Gimel, that we do see that Sof Bchira is higher than Ratzin, because Bchira ultimately is the one that has all the power. Even Ratzin, which L'ch'eira seems to be an Inyan Atzmi, is also totally, it's K'chomer B'yad HaYoytzer in the Koyach of Bchira. Bchira is the one that chooses, if to want or not. Now, so the first thing that he starts with in Sifches is he puts Goyrel and Bchira on the same pedestal, right? There's Seichel Midas, there's Ratzin, higher than everything is Goyrel and Bchira. That's the first thing he does. The next thing he does is he says, okay, now that you understand that Goyrel and Bchira are similar, Bchira is higher than Goyrel. That's stage 2. Stage 3 is, now that you understand that Bchira is after Goyrel, let me explain to you that really Bchira and Goyrel are two parts of one entity. Right? Bchira has within it Goyrel. Right? So these are the 3 stages. We'll go through these 3 stages. So the first Nikuda is Goyrel and Bchira are higher than everything else. Why? So we say in Ratzin, what happens in Ratzin? Ratzin, the emissary Ratzin, Kimavor, is the Ratzin Atzmi. Right, if someone wants something because Seichel dictates to wants it, then it's not real Ratzin. That's Seichel. It's Ratzin Shalmatim as Seichel. It's like Midas. What's Ratzin? Ratzin is a Zoyvil. So the dogma, the ultimate Ratzin, that's Ratzin Atzmi. It's Ratzin Shalmatim B'damadas, and this is Ratzin Atzmi. Ratzin Atzmi is like the Ratzin of Av Leben, or Ben La'av. This that as the Tata will the Zon, and the Zon will the Tata, and there's an Ava Atzmis. Why is it? The son is giving something to the father doesn't have. It's the nachas that he's bringing. The son loves the father because the father's taking care of his tzrachim. No, that's not what it's all about. And that's why the Ava Atzmis of the father to the son is more to a Nar Yisrael, to a baby, to a young child, where the chayre bring garnish in it. What's he doing? He's smiling. Right? What's he bringing? Because it's Ava Atzmis, it's Nikuda Atzmi. That's the Teva Atzmi of a father as his Nimshach Tzimtzum. Noch Tifir, you have within the person himself, the Ratzin to live, the survival instinct. Why do I want to survive? You're going to start rationalizing with me what's better, life or death. It's speaking them Retzich. Yeah, this is the Tchuna Sa'adam, Hashem. So even Klali, when we look at Ratzin versus the other Kleichis, Ratzin really, when we talk about the ultimate Ratzin Atzmi, Ratzin defines the human being as he is, via his Farzich. Was ich will, not based off any external elements, anything else that's machriyah. Then comes Goyrel and Bchir. So let's talk about Bchir. So Bchir, what happens in Bchir? Bchir is, we tell a person, this person says, I have the ability to choose something without any netias whatsoever. Right? There's no reason for it. If there's a reason, then it's not called choice. It's not really a choice. Why am I choosing it? Well, ich will try. That's what I want to choose. So, on the one hand, it's similar to that, so it's a very different vart. Because when we say that Bchira, there's no netias, we're better being shoyl, not only netias tazulas. The netias that Bchira is shoyl is also netias atzmias. Netios tivios. Right? This that a father, a tata vil sein son. Why does a father want his son? That's teva. If this person wants to live, because that's the way we're made. It's part of our DNA. Bchira is the koyach that was given to a person to transcend his DNA. It's not about what I'm naturally inclined towards and what I'm naturally interested in. I'm not moved in that klal. And that's the grace of Milo. That's in the Chiddush Miyuchah that exists after by a human being, and after by Yisrael, after by a Yid. The koyach that we have, and no other nivra has, no human being, no behemah, not behemah is obviously tzemeach and doimim, but not different. None of the malachim, none of the spheres l'mayla, none of the oiris lachar atzimtzim, and even the oiris koydim atzimtzim. Every single nivra, meaning anything that exists, you can call it a thing, any mitzias, other than the Eibishter himself, has certain tchunas. A behemah has its tchuna. Every behemah has, whichever behemah it is, it's teva rachmoni, teva achzori, teva adam. The spheres l'mayla, chesed is chesed, gvura is gvura. The highest oiris, even the oiris that are not mugbal and not mugder, but they're an oir. Oir means that they're a gilui, they're an expression, they're here to express something, to bring out a certain union. So every darga that exists has certain tchunas. And no matter what happens under any circumstances, it can never go against its own tchunas. It can't be something else. Gvura can't be chesed. Chesed can't be gvura. Mashenke, not ayid. We're given koyach b'chira. What's koyach b'chira? Koyach b'chira is the ability to go completely against all our natural inclinations, even on the deepest level, even if it's mamish part of our etzem mahus, of who we are. Because l'chayra, stuff, every human being has certain tchunas. It's etzem nafshah. In Chassidus it's called the Hashrasha Atzvus of Etzem HaNefesh. Right? Beishamai Beisila. They weren't just emotional people that Beishamai always likes to go this way and Beisila likes to go that way. It was Etzem Nafsho. There's a Isha Ches, there's Isha Gvur. People have certain tchunas. So you'll have someone that really understands Nefsho, a real mumche, psychologist. He could even look at a young child, see a few things that this child does, and will come and say, look, no suffix be'enai. In 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, if this in this circumstance, this in this story will happen to this person, this is what's going to happen, this is the direction he's going to take. Sometime I think it was one of Shlomo Chaim's Talmidim. She said they found Shlomo Chaim's his ksav after he passed away, that he sent to the Rebbe, I guess he held a copy for himself, he sent to the Rebbe 1 year a list of all his Talmidim, and he was magdir very good. And I guess maybe the nefesh adam. He's magdir the tchunas nefesh of every one of his talmidim, and he writes what he thinks is going to be the job and where these people are going to end up in life. It says and he matched it up to Lamaisa where things are holding. It wasn't that 40 years later, whatever it was, and it wasn't that far off. So some of them were mamish 100%, some of them based on fart. The Rebbe sent certain people on shlichus and made them change their koyach, their koyches, yeah. So you didn't get it, but you can understand, you can know where people are going. You know, if you leave this, I'll leave this in the air and I'll take away my hand, it's going to fall. No, I have a suffix. We'll maybe go up or down, to the right, to the left. There's no suffix. So get that up. I know what's going to happen. Bechira means that we can never actually know what a person's going to choose. Because I can choose against my tchunas, even tchunas atzivus. So therefore you could have a matziv that a father can pick a fight with his son, and a son can pick a fight with his father. Noch different, a person could decide that he doesn't want to live anymore. Right? The person, the person could decide that, what happened to your natural, basic, healthy instinct, survival instinct, what happened to it? It's there. It didn't disappear. It's there. Yet the bechira is that I'm able to go to. So with pashtos, we think of bechira in those terms. He said like this case. So what's the adam? The adam is ratz. That's the healthy human being. That's where the mensch is. Bechira is the superimposed koyach that we got. Right? What's the lashon that Rambam brings? That we have the koyach. Who, other than the human being, other than the yid, who has bechira? Atzmos. Atzmos has no geder. There's no reason why Atzmos is here, and there's no reason that he's here. So there's no darim to him. He is. So Maamer is here. So by him, there's total bechira. We'll discuss it later. There's total bechira by him. So Atzmos gave us bechira that we could also, so that we could transcend. Well, what we transcend ourselves, who we are. So there's the mensch. Ratz, and bechira is the ability to go. But be'etzim no. Azoitak is sometimes verstandig azay. The bechira is the ability to go out of yourself. And in a way, this would be similar to what we learned
the Maamer of David Avdi, like Koyach HaDibur. Koyach HaDibur is the ability for a person to go out of himself. But that's not the word. Here we're saying no. The be'etzem, the kumteis, Bechira is the etzem ha'adam, the ultimate etzem ha'adam. Because even in yonim atzmiyim, a teva atzmi, like in shachas ha'av leben and ben la'av, it's weiter ageder. It's not me who I am. Right? Even in Pashto Isias, before we go into the different scholar, the Pashtos, you say that a person, the etzem, has a shaykhis to his son. Right? Of mizenda, that a person can live, only can live, right? No one is born with having children. It's something that happens 20, 25 years later, right? So there's a whole human being without the child. Then he has, they wish to bench him in a kid. And now he sort of puts on a new hat. What's his hat? His hat is I'm a father. In my capacity, the tate, so there's a kesher atzmi from the tate to the son. Take away the son, take away the birth. So the av and ben, the fact that I'm an av is not who I am. Right? You're able to divide me from the fact that I'm a father. Fine, so that's going to get to av and ben, that the ben is a davar chitzoyin. It's me, the way I connect to something outside of me, even though the ben is very close to me, but I'm connected to something outside of me. But even when we're talking about in yonim atzmim, like the etzem rotzin lebayis, the rotzin lichis, right? The chayra, that's who I am. But saf, it's the person within certain gdarim, right? It's me, there's me to myself, and then there's the fact that human beings want to live. But I could be Messiah, right? You could think of a human being, there's a human being, was vilnish, right? That's the definition of, is the definition of a human being the survival instinct? That's the definition of human being? That's the definition of me? No, that's not who I am. It's something that I want very much, and there isn't any human being out there without that, it's something, that rotzen that's ingrained within it. Aber nicht das ist er. Because nicht das ist er, therefore, I have the ability to choose Hepech in rotzen atzmi. It's not just a gift that was given to me, Momaila, that I have the ability to go against my natural instinct. This that I can choose against it is because I'm able to tap into, and that's in the koyach of a yid. That without the koyach of bechira, we're basically saying that no matter, a person can dig within himself deeper and deeper and deeper, but then you'll hit a brick wall, right? There's certain parts, there's certain tchunis that you have that are so part and parcel of how you exist, of your etzem existence, you can't bypass that, right? The basic survival instinct, but when I speak about bechira, I'm basically saying, no, I'm not limited by that. I'm able to go within myself to a much deeper place. That even those naturally ingrained in yonim tivim within me, they also don't define me. And I'm able to transcend them. I'm able to go against the ratzin of av leben and against the survival instinct of all. Right? So bechira transcends ratzin. Bechira is saying, I have no limitations whatsoever. Nor vaden, was ich will. It's completely, I'm saying will, and will is ratzin. What I choose. Choose means the ability to not be limited by any preconceived notions or anything that was ingrained within me. I'm able to make the choice on my own. That's bechira. Now, so be'etzem, that's bechira, and it's very similar to what we discussed about Karu. What's Karu? Karu is also. Karu is seichel, can't choose in this case. Ratzin can't choose, like you brought in Sif Gimel, but Amol. Ratzin can't be the one. Where it's in the Maamer in Tashiyot Zayin, that I explain this more about Ichus. The Ratzin can't choose. So therefore, what happens in that case? Karu, basically saying, none of the toolbox, nothing of the tools that was given as when I was born can help me in this decision making. So what do? Karu. So basically, I come to a place where I'm not listening to any of the voices within me. Karu. Elama, in Karu, it's sort of a defeatist attitude. I can't figure this out, so let someone else figure it out for me. Bechira, I tap into a place within me that
I could find a voice that's not defined by any of those regular voices that I listen to. It's a koiches of ratzin, seichel, midas, b'chira, I'm the one that's choosing. So if you're talking about, so you can understand that b'chira is stronger than goyrol. I guess you'll think in human terms, b'chira is a more bold move. It's easier always to just give it to somebody, let someone else make the choice for me, right? We never want to make serious choices. Whenever it comes to real complicated choices, you choose for me, right? Let someone else make the choice. B'chira is, I'm standing up and I'm going to make the choice. I'm going to choose. We're speaking about very deep koiches over here. It's a koich that every person has. Yid has zicher, but lav dafke it's used, right? You can have people that go through their lives, their entire lives, and maybe they never access b'chira. If we talk about real b'chira that I choose which maamer to learn, or which thing to eat, and that I'm sure yet. But that's a choice because I find mindless one over the other. But true b'chira, lav dafke that we access that, which would mean that until a person reaches a place that they're able to quiet all the natural instincts and attractions and voices that they have and decide to be boicher, lav dafke they're going to go. But that's what happens in b'chira, that's in goyim. But here we come and say, no, it's not just b'chira. B'chira is not just, you're not more brave. That's not the ideal b'chira. B'chira is really, you're going to a higher place than where goyrol reaches. Why? B'chira is the same place, b'nefesh, where everything is shaved. So the lashon he uses in the Maamer is, on top of page 9, the kovetz, that the chiluk ben goyrol, b'chira hu d'chadam oisa goyrol, machlik k'moisha yipol ha-goyrol, Kein yer et soinoi, then haratzin shelo yoloi mitzad ha'adam apnei shekein offer ha-goyrol, u'b'chira hi sha'adam hu ha-boicher. Right, so with Pashtus, this is what we said. Pashtus, ratzin is, I give up, so let goyrol make the choice for me. B'chira is that I'm the one that's choosing. Uvemela, but this is the one. He said, move on. The b'chira l'mayla mi goyrol. This teaches us, from here we understand that sof b'chira is not on the same level as goyrol, it's higher than goyrol. The goyrol hu adar given nefesh, ni mugderes u muchrachas possesha shnei dvarim im shavim legabah. V'inyin ha-b'chira hu she'enei mugdor u muchrach beis dvarim, koilo dvarim shavim legabah, right, so the goyrol sof is mugderes umuchrachas. The Rebbe underlines mugderes umuchrachas. There's a big hagdara and hechrich that exists in goyrol. Now the hagdara and hechrich here is mamish not a pashta mugderes umuchrachas. And for Kein, but even klali, the whole idea of goyrol is that it's not mugder and muchrach. Because what's the whole vart of goyrol and b'chira? The whole nekuda is that in one of the Seidistic Sichis of b'chira, maybe the Seidistic Sich of b'chira, the first place where the Rebbe introduces it, the Rebbe's Eisias, and the Chilek Dalet and Isafis, not this Chilek Dalet. Chilek Dalet is brought over here?
Yeah.
No, it's not Reich. Reich Dalet is already much stiffer. That we get to the Aram, we get to the when you choose something, it's b'chira, then it's much stronger. But there's earlier on Chilek Dalet, it's saying it here, it's obviously Chilek Dalet, probably the Sichis it's brought, is that the lashon the Rebbe uses there is that if a person, the Rebbe is introducing that b'chira is when it's higher than seichel. Right? When you choose something inside the seichel, it's not real b'chira. The basic is safe. When you choose that seichel, when you say to choose something, it's not real b'chira. Why? What the Rebbe uses there, that for a baal seichel, when your seichel tells you something, when your seichel tells you Aleph is better than Beis, then to go against what your seichel tells you is a bigger kfiyah than kfiyah b'shoit. That's the lashon that Rebbe uses. Right? You whip someone, you tell them, look, if you take the thing on the right, you'll be okay. Take the thing on the left, I'm going to whip you. You're forcing him, yeah? So it says, yeah, that's not really forcing. Say then, we'll get whipped. You have people that are masochists, they like pain. Yeah, whatever, it's you're forcing, but it's not the ultimate hechrich. For a baal seichel, to tell a baal seichel, when something in this person's mind, it's black and white, it's very clear that black, this is black, it's not good, this is white, this is good. To tell him, choose the black, it's impossible for the more a person is a Baal Seichel. You see this in Nigris a lot. There's writing to wives or husbands about their spouse and Shalom Bayis and other inyanim and jobs. I saw Shiur lately. That was writing to Yitzchak Ginsburg, the Kubbel. So the Rebbe writes, I think it's his wife. The Rebbe basically said that I've learned to know him the last few years, and he's a big takif v'daite, a real Baal Seichel. Of a mele to impose upon him something that he doesn't want, doesn't make sense to him, it's going to blow up. It's impossible, right? The more a person, so if I should look at it, less you're a Baal Seichel, and the less you're sophisticated, more bittul, you could, I can tell you what to do. The more Seichel you have, less bittul. It's not the part of bittul, that's not the gush. And the kudah is, in Seichel, the more Seichel a person has, the more Seichel versteht in a certain way, to go against what Seichel dictates is pashut, it's painful, it's impossible, it's mamish kfir. It's the ultimate force. So Mela, Seichel is force. Chire, Goyrol, it's right, they're not defined. So the whole word is that when I go beyond Seichel, well, after I come and I go beyond Ratzin, is that I'm not mugder and mukhrach in anything, right? You can do anything. So the Rebbe says, yeah, but sof, the dakos yoiser, in Goyrol there's also mugderes and mukhrachas. It's defined. What's it defined in? Goyrol is defined by the fact that Shnei Hadvarim Him Shovim Legabo. Goyrel basically comes and says, I can't choose. Why can't I choose? Right, either subjectively or objectively, these things are, there's nothing pulling me to choose them. A person could come and say, one second, why is there nothing you to pull, why is nothing pulling you to choose A over B? Okay, I could show you my list or whatever, technically. So either there's talking nothing there, or because I'm in a place, right? This person is merum. This person's in a place that for him, what do you tell him? Vanilla, chocolate, say there, it's all the same, right? There's hechef from it. So he's not mugder in the gdarim of this flavor and that flavor and this color and that color. There's hechef. So Mela, he's in a place where Shnei Dvarim Shav. So Rebbe says, that's a Hagdara. What's the Hagdara? The Hagdara is that you're in a space where there are no chilukim. Either be'etzem there's no chilukim, or for you there's no chilukim. That's the space where Goyrol exists. You exist in a place of Shlila. There's no kesher. There's no kesher because nothing is bringing me any satisfaction either way. Mitzad its gdarim. There's no kesher mitzad my gdarim, like rotzin av ben. Right? There's no ben here. They're both banim or they're both not banim. So what's going on here? So Mela's like, so there's no, I can't choose, right? There's nothing here. So I'm defined into a certain space. What's that space? The space is a space where there's no gdar. I'm mugder, not being mugder. Shlila. So the Rebbe says, "Weiter, no, so kumtei, so that's a hagdar. You're mugder in shnei dvarim shavim legabo. Mashenk in b'chir. What happens in b'chir? In b'chir, you're eine mugder muchrach bezet dvarim. That hagdar also doesn't exist. Right? Being mitzayir like this. So you have, right, so it's nice in the Chol Yoyed, especially probably on Shlichus or his homeschooling. Yeah. So you have a teacher in a classroom, and the teacher in the classroom has all kinds of kids. Now, this year, the teacher has his own son, or she has her own daughter in her class. Right? So when you have a school with multiple classes in a grade, they always try to make sure that kids don't go to their parents' class. Say that because it puts everyone in a compromised situation. They'll put all the kids in the. So now think like this. So the teacher comes into the classroom, and he the teacher has this kid there. Now the kid and the teacher are not playing. They have two hats on them, right? They're playing two different parts. There's a parent and child, and there's a teacher and student. So Lav Dafka has to always come into has to always be a fight. But what happens is like this. So the teacher has to pick the Talmud HaShavua, of the week, or whatever, or to win anything. Now, assuming that the parent-child relationship is a normal, healthy relationship, so Be'etzem, what should the teacher want every single week? And in every single competition? Who should win? You would hope the teacher wants that his child should be the one winning. So wouldn't you want your kid to always come out on top? Now, the problem is that you can't run a classroom that way, right? Even the one time your kid's going to win, then everyone's going to go again. So what does the teacher do? So the teacher does like this. He enters the classroom and says like this. He walks his kid to school every day, and as they're about to enter the classroom, he tells the student, or the machshavah that tells him, okay, once we pass this door, this is my kid, right? You're not my kid anymore. Right now, you're a student like any other student. Because the only way to deal with the child in the classroom, in the context, why? Because, now use the lashon of the Maamer. As long as the kid will be my child in the classroom, then it's never shnei dvarim shavim, right? There's always a netiya to choose the child, because this one's a ben is hecher v'nishta ben, no matter how good all other students do. So what I do is I say biznish kein kind, or they're all my kids, or none of you are my kids, right? So what you do is you move away from any agdaris, shnei dvarim shavim legabe. So sort of the teacher puts himself into a corner, so locks himself in a place where shnei dvarim shavim. Every once in a while, so one second, it's my kid. No. Don't remind me, right? Put that on the side, because in order for Karu to exist, in order for there to be free elections over there, it has to be shnei dvarim shavim. But now once it's shnei dvarim shavim, so then there's no. So then what happens? Okay, so then we'll make a raffle. I can choose, because the moment I'm going to start choosing, the moment I have to choose one of them, then I already have a netiya. Comes Bechira and says like this, no, I could choose, not a problem at all. How could you choose? The whole word here is that the shnei dvarim shavim. If it's all shavim, then what are you choosing? The answer is then Bechira, there's no shnei dvarim shavim. Not because they're not shavim. There's no shnei dvarim shavim because there's no shnei dvarim. There's stagardish. Bechira comes and says nothing exists. Who's here? I'm here. There are no things. So when I talk about things that are mugdir, so there's levels. There are things that are mugdir, there's things that pulled me towards it. Either mitzad, because they talk to me, midas. Or because hecher, intellect pulls me towards it. As I seichel. Nach tifer, nach hecher, my rotzin atzmi says, ich will mein Kind. Not inside something outside of me, something internal pulls me towards it. Over saf, tzad hashav, all these three levels, even though there are many, there's minakatza, lakatza, is what? Is that there's something outside that's pulling me towards it. Hecher from them kommt Karu. Karu comes and says, no, there's nothing pulling you. Right, so Karu is in a different league than all other three. Bechira comes and says Tifra, no. Karu is also included in the first three. It's a fourth level. Karu is saying, these things exist, there are these two options, but you're so far removed from it that there's nothing about either option that has something with it that pulls you towards it. That's true. But there's two things here. There are two inyanim. There is Lashem al Azal. There are two Seirim here. There are two children here. There's Tatzvei inyanim. Elamai, I'm so inside myself that there's nothing that talks to me about it. But they're here. But if we're really talking about the mensch wie is farzich, then it's different. It's not just that there's two things that none of them attract me in either way. There aren't two things. It's still garnish. There's nothing other than the mensch alay. He's not removed from the two of them. There are no two of them. It's the Noram. Right? The deepest place in a human being, the deepest place a person is what? The deepest place a person can reach is the Nor de Mensch und Garnish. But when you mean garnished, it's not garnished. It's not like this. You have extroverted people. You have people that are very they're with the oilam. Now, there's a positive side. They're very popular in Bala Chevra, but also they take everything everyone says very personal, right? So they're mislabish in people in other people around them. They could have been mal, right? They're misyachis, mislabish, and nitfas in what happens around them. Then you have the good of soivid, right? You have someone that's mamish, it's an introvert, someone that is a gamer nicht on what other people say, right? So the mainly he'll come in, he'll do his thing. Everyone, they're laughing, there's up the it's nish negeya. Right? He's shoyl everyone else's mitzias. But when we say shoyl everyone's mitzias, what's a shoyl mitzias? There's a mitzias that he's shoyl their mitzias, shlilas and mitzias. When you're shoyl mitzias, you're acknowledging the mitzias. Soiviv kol almin means that there's almin that you're soiviv, you're makiv al almin. You're shlilas soilas. But mitzad atzmusi yisbarech, there's no oilam isboiv from chiyuvi, and there's no oilam isboiv from shlili. We say kulak mekah, we had this in after Masvalio, where it was a nisim, kulak meklachshiv. It's not the pshat, it's the oilams that are kalachshiv, there's oilams that are bottle. The only thing, what is it? It's Atzmusi Yisbarech. When you talk about Atzmusi Yisbarech, you can't talk about Atzmus, there is vis-a-vis the oilamis. There isn't anything else, there's only him. And okay, so now there's him. Now, him, and he has no Gdarim, so everything is totally b'bchirasai. So he could decide like this. He could decide that there are oilamis or there aren't. He could decide that there are no Dvarim, or there are Shnei Dvarim. The Shnei Dvarim will be Shavim or not Shavim. There'll be Shnei Dvarim Shavim, and he'll choose one of them or he won't. Right? It's all an internal process. Everything that's happening is all happening from within, not from a place of how he relates to things. There aren't any things. Goyrel is mugder in the fact that there are things. And the way he relates to those things, his way of relating to them, in Ratzin he relates to them over Ratzin Atzmi, in Goyrel he relates to them from a place of no nitiyah klal. Chira says, still garnish. There's me. And it's all totally britzayim. What do I want? He wants that there should be Dvarim Shavim, and choose one of them and say them. That's the starting point. That's the finish point. It's all from his place. So therefore Bechira is not mugder in any inyanim. There's nothing there. It's all one point. So he wants that there should be Shnei Dvarim Shavim, and it's all mitzad mekayim. So that's in Bechira. And now we come and say the Shloimar, right? The Shloimar it's the Chiddush. The Shloimar. The Shloimar the Bechira yeshnom Shnei Yanyan. Darga the nefesh l'mayla miseichel shel gabo Shnei Advarim im shav dargas hagoyrel. That's the first level. Is that shul boicher k'mei sheroyis agam shel Shnei Advarim im shavim legabei hu ba me'etzem hanefesh. When you break down Bechira, you recognize that Saf Bechira has two levels. And Bechira has within it Goyal, right? After we came later and said the second Chelik of the first Keta. That Bechira is much higher than Goyal. Goyal is Mugder. Bechira is not Mugder, that Beganatzmos. So now we come and say, yeah, but Saf, when you think about Bechira, Bechira is not pure Atzmos. It's not pure Etzem HaNefesh. The Lashon uses, Bechira comes from Etzem HaNefesh, Ba me Etzem HaNefesh. But it's not in Mekoimoi of Etzem HaNefesh. Why? Because if the vart of Etzem HaNefesh, let's mention that not supposed to l'maylo. If the vart of Etzem HaNefesh is in the deepest place of a human being, Etzem HaNefesh, there is nothing. There's absolutely nothing that exists other than the Men Shalim. Then how is he choosing from two things? There are no two things. So what's he choosing? He's choosing from two things that are shaveh, right? Ach Esav liyakiv. In this case, the level of right. When we're talking about the Eibusher chooses the Yidden, Banu Bacharto by Matan Torah, and then by Purim was Kivu Masha Kivus. There was Vaiter Bechira. We were Beichen Eibusher. The Eibusher was Beicher us. So again, Bechira. Bechira ultimately means that you are choosing from two things. That's Bechira. You're choosing. So Bechira. So there are two things here, or there isn't anything here. What's going on here? So the word of Bechira has within it two factors. Bechira ultimately is a shilov of pure Bechira and Goyro.
the ability to have bchira, this, that I can have bchira, this, that I'm not moved in any darim klal or mela, it's all up to me, comes from etzem nefesh. But if you just stay in the space of etzem nefesh, the guy's in la la land. You're not even that. He's nowhere. There isn't any actionable things that he's doing. There aren't any choices happening. Choices happen in the real world, where he has to make choices. So the place of bchira, the place that he actually makes the bchira, is already where there is a yachas between him and the illness. Yachas between him and the dvarim outside of it. This that I can choose is bekoyach etzem nefesh. Now, this nikud is something that Abbtzan brings in a few places, similar, but here it's brought in a bit different. Even Klali, the Sikh Chelik Yotes that Rebbe is mitzayin into, and it has here in the Kovetz, the Sikh Nitzab Chelik Yotes. There it says the Maamer being Mashliyos, Maamer Yedu B'Alaf Nissen. Right, in both of those places, it speaks about this idea of bchira happening in two spaces. There's the place of bchira, the makar of bchira in etzem nefesh, where bchira ultimately is mushrashin, where it comes from. But then there's in the real world where bchira takes place. But the real world that he discusses in the Maamer bein Mashliyos and in Nitzavim Chelik Yotes is a lower level than what's Retzich done. There, in the Maamer and Sikh and other places, the Rebbe read that ultimately, where does bchira usually take place? In the real world, where do we make choices? We make choices in the world of tam das, right? It's a toiv, it's a hara, toiv, ra, choose a ebishter, or once on choose ebishter, and then and in that place of bchira, very often we talk about bchira that's bchira not real bchira. Bchira where there's milas in this, there's milas in that. Hayasham pikach echad, and the pikeach comes and says he makes a cheshbon, kulum tzalf, ma'akalayna tzalf, he chooses the ebishter. Right. So pikach means pikchas is seichel. So the choice is coming from a place of tam das. So in the Maamer and Sikh, there read how these two complement each other. There's the etzem bchira, true bchira that happens in etzem nefesh. We're there. It's not about choosing between different options and finding reasons and feelings to take me in a certain direction. That's what's it called in the sikha there, the etzem bchira or the bchira atzmis. And the shorish bchira, and the second level is called the gilui bchira. The gilui bchira. Right? In the Maamer, it's the shorish bchira is chelki avaya amr nafshi. It's inyan atzmi. It's inyan of nefesh. But it's niskala in seichel that the fact that the pikeach, the fact that the neshama chooses mitzad seichel, the eivish there taket is asbara sichlis, but the reason why your seichel thinks in a certain way is because that's what you want mitzad etzem nefesh. So there we're talking about etzem nefesh, and then koiches pnimim. There's a big leap over there, all the way to koiches pnimim. We're skipping over goyrel ratz, and we're going all the way. So in a way, it's more mechodesh there, right? That we're saying that we're connecting etzem neshama with gilui, with koiches pnimim. Here, we're connecting etzem neshama with goyrel. But mitzad sheni, it's tiffer over here because there we're talking about two different kinds of bchira. There's the atzmistik bchira, which is the etzem bchira, etzem neshama, and then there's the bchira, which is the bchira completely disconnected from that. It's a bchira that I actually made a choice. It wasn't any anymore. I actually figured out al seichel and midas why I want this. And we connect those two, that this is mushrish and that. Here we're coming and saying, this, we're talking about the bchira, we're talking about the atzmistik bchira alein. That shoyrish of bchira, that original bchira. How does that original bchira take place? That original bchira itself is a shilov of two daras. It's the shilov of bchira and goyrel. Because we're not talking here about how bchira manifests itself in an actual tam v'das, I'm using my koiches to make a choice. We're talking about in the world of goyrel. Goyrel means where it's shnei dvarim shavim. There's nothing in rotzen, seichel, midas, pulling. It seems to be this complete no netiya klal u'klal. The ability to choose in that space is from bchira, but the whole nikuda that I am choosing is in a place of goyrel. Now, obviously, it doesn't fully work with the way we explain cherish of bchira in the sikh, the Maamer, definitely in the sikh, because there we're speaking about cherish of bchira where there are no two options. Right? There's just etzem neshama and the eivish. Here we are speaking about where there are two options, kiviyachol, of goyrel,
but the ability to choose is only mitzad b'chira. So this would be a third level. It's not either level that's mavur in the Sikha and in Beimash Yaser. It's the b'chira where there are shnei dvarim shavim, and that I choose them, and that's the b'chira we're talking about in this Maamer. And only through that first statement, the kud of the Maamer, because what told you say to the Maamer? They were talking about Gleiro. Why is Purim called Purim? Moshe not Purim. Pur was the problem. The Gleiro, how is that the nets? So you say because Haman tried to kill the Yidden and annihilate the Yidden through making a Gleiro. It was only through Gleiro I could reach that space that Esav Li'akiv completely, I could destroy it. So what's the solution? The solution is B'chir. The solution is B'chir, then why are we calling it Purim? Let's call it Chag HaB'chir. Right? Chag HaB'chir. Taka, Rosh Hashanah, when we have the Kud of B'chir before Tkiyas, we say Yivchar Lon. Purim, we don't say Yivchar, we say Purim. We read Megillah, Purim. Why Purim? Because the way it airs, Masber B'chira Da, in this Maamer, is B'chira what is B'chira? B'chira is a yichud of Etzem and Neshama with Goyim. And the actual space, the place that B'chira takes place in the world of Goyim. So therefore, we call it Purim, because that's what it really is. We were Megala, the emes of Goyim, which is the Nekudas of B'chira.